IMakeFOSS, and this week I am here with Philippe Humeau, who is the CEO of CrowdSec, who has been our guest curator for IMakeFOSS on Twitter this week. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. I'm glad we did this together, and I really wanted to partake in IMakeFOSS. So I'm delighted to be there with you tonight.
Excellent. Well, we have been happy to have you, and we can't wait to hear about how not only do you make FOSS, but the way that you make FOSS makes us hopefully all safer.
Absolutely. That's the point. FOSS has been doing so much globally, worldwide for IT. It's unbelievable. When you think about it, like 90 to 95% of the internet is actually powered through FOSS and software that are free by all means and stitched together. And this thing hold on perfectly. A proof,
hmm
if any, was needed that it's really the right way to go.
That is an excellent point. And so I love the fact that so when I found out that I was going to be interviewing you, I, of course, like automatically went to the site. And the way that you're using the not only the power of open source, but the power of the crowd for this, for this protection to work. I can't wait to talk to you more about this. So this is a pretty recent project.
You're right. I mean, we started all the thing um, last year in January.
Mm-hmm.
The team gathered around the table and said, "Okay, we can pull it and make the software a reality and useful for people already in less than a year." And the first stable release, was made in end of November.
Mm-hmm.
And to date, we are going to be included into the Debian in the new version.
Oh,
Normally,
that's
if everything goes well,
excellent. That's
yeah,
excellent.
in the bullseye.
Yeah, that is, and especially since getting it into there just makes it can get it into so many other projects too. So that is
Yeah, this is a
fantastic.
getaway. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. You're right. Debian is a getaway to so many other projects, and the
Mm-hmm.
Debian curation is a very strict, complicated one, but it's a serious one, and that makes things rock solid. So we are delighted we could make it through.
Excellent. So, well, I work for Canonical for my day job. So hopefully,
Mhm.
a couple of my colleagues will be getting to, who knows, talk to you in the future about this.
I'd be delighted.
Yeah. So, why don't you go ahead and get us started? Kind of what for people who, especially who might be involved in FOSS but aren't involved so much on kind of cybersecurity.
Yeah, we can make this very easy for them to get in and to contribute. So let's see how it works.
Excellent.
Basically, already it's made by people that have a SecOps and DevOps background. We've been in your shoes, guys and girls. We really, I can tell you. I mean, I had a hosting companies for years, and we were doing high security hosting, so we know where the pain points are because we lived through them ourselves. And also, part of the team and part of my experience is about pen testing. Red team, if you know what the details are, but basically we don't have no information about the target and we should break in. So basically, the somehow the hardest. And so this is the team we have aggregated, and those people know their job. They know how people break in, they know how to defend, they know how to operate. I mean, it's not something we guessed, it's something we live through.
Yeah, yeah,
So we are
excellent.
facing a big problem. I mean, how crazy is that cybersecurity is probably the only one place in the world where budget doesn't make such a difference.
Yeah.
Think about it. You go to a racetrack, right? You got this brand new Lamborghini of yours because you work at Canonical, for God's sake, right?
Woohoo! Yeah, of
And
course.
someone and someone comes by and with like a Chevy pickup from the 60s, right? And this person would beat you at the finish lane. How how possible is that? It's totally impossible, right? It's
Yeah.
never ever gonna happen. Even though you would not know how to drive, you would just beat him 10 times out of 10 or 100 times out of 10, right? But in cybersecurity, it's not true. Think about it. People like, I don't know, huge banks in America, they have
Mhm.
budgets in the magnitude of $800 million in security, right? Cybersecurity budget a year. Let's chew this figure together. $800 million just for cybersecurity. And you know what? They get hacked.
Mhm.
Like the next pizza shop. So there's something wrong, right? It's one of the only place where having such a heap of money doesn't protect you. I mean, for $800 million, you could have an army at your door, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, you could,
But that was
oh my goodness. And that's just,
so.
well, it's nice to know that our bank fees are going somewhere, but less nice to know that all that money isn't really doing them that much good.
Yeah, and less nice to know that your data are going
Uh-huh.
somewhere.
It's probably why I
Your
don't
customer.
bank with them, but I don't think that my bank is that much better, to be honest,
I mean, I
or
don't know. I mean,
anyone's.
I don't want to make any generality because those people are working hard to keep you secure, right? But
Mhm.
it doesn't mean they're succeeding, and it's not the money making any difference. So, if those huge major tier one banks and governments cannot defend themselves, why is that? I mean, there's a problem here. So usually how it goes, first of all, it doesn't cost much to attack anyone. I mean, it starts with a discovery. Usually it's pulse
Mhm.
scan and then a web scan. So you look at the IPs of the target, and then you breach. You find something like a credential brute force, for example, or whatever, for what matters. And you get access to something sensitive, maybe a VPN, maybe an FTP, maybe something like this, right? We heard
Mhm.
about it lately with SolarWind, for example. It was an FTP.
Yeah.
And then you remotely use the target for whatever you want. Leverage the asset, you cipher a disk, you inject a malware, whatever. So why can't you solve that? Being a business. But first of all, there is a very asymmetrical game taking place. You're never in charge of the time. It's never you choosing the time when you get attacked. It's not you,
It'd
right?
be great if they could just schedule it. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
hi,
I
we'd
mean,
like to attack you at this time. Does this work?
come on Tuesday, 6 p.m., please, because this is where our team is gathering. No,
Yeah.
no, it's not going to happen, right? And when they come in and the breach, you don't even find them before maybe weeks or months. And say you have a vulnerability somewhere. I don't know, like your web system is vulnerable at some point, your web stack.
Mhm.
What happens is there will be maybe patch coming through, right? And then you will have to deploy it. So when is the patch coming? When can you deploy it, and so on? You're barely in charge of that. You barely have the time in your pocket to do it the way you want. Second thing is unfiltered accesses. It's crazy the amount of things that are just not filtered. Will you
Yeah.
filter people going to your website? No, not going to your website. So you will plot them how? Like the blue on the one end, the red on the other end? No, I mean, it's nearly impossible. Same for the apps, same for the DNS, same for the mail. I mean, you name it. And what you cannot filter is also, or it's hard to filter, is everything that is ciphered. SSL is great, don't get me wrong. But the
Mhm.
problem is it's really hard to peer inside, to peek inside and see what is the problem, or if there is any problem for that matters.
Yeah.
And if you do so, you slow the shit out of the systems.
Yep.
So, very complicated. The one of the worst part is probably the perimeter. I mean,
Mhm.
you have stuff in the cloud drive, right? Probably a Dropbox or a Google Drive at home, or
Yep.
Microsoft OneDrive.
So much.
Yep. Yeah, so much. Then you have stuff in your SaaS environments. Maybe your website is hosted in a SaaS way, or you have other apps that are in a SaaS fashion, right? So you have data there as well. You have data in VMs, in containers, and probably also people created VPNs last minute to fight against the COVID workload problem.
Mhm.
So if they didn't do it earlier, it's probably because they were not ready, by the way, So password policy, filtering policy. Okay, we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
But suffice to say that the perimeter is at very best uneven. I'm not saying that everything is bad. It's just uneven at best.
Mhm.
And security wise, I mean. And then the money problem. This is the most asymmetrical force of them all. Think about it. If we take like I don't know, Citibank, JP Morgan, whomever, they are spending hundreds of millions of dollars, right? People that are attacking them and breaching, how much do you think they spend? If they spend like $80,000, it's a great maximum, most likely, or maybe 8 million even. But it's not 1 to 100. It's usually not to 1,000 ratio.
Mm-hmm.
So all those forces makes the game rigged. It's rigged. You cannot win. If you have someone playing in front of you with four aces in the sleeve, you cannot win. And that's exactly what's happening. Not talking about the fact that they just have to succeed once, where
Exactly.
you should block them every time. You just have to win one. That's terrible, right?
Yeah.
And then sorry, business has priority over security. So when you want to deploy anything, it's business first. If you're about to change a password, it's business first and so on. So
Mm-hmm.
security can wait. We used to say, we have a quote that goes like, security is the first priority we have after all the others. That's pretty much it.
That's a great saying.
It's been true for years,
But
for
yeah.
decades. It's not true anymore, but it's been true for decades, right? So not also, you have complicated interdependencies. Like if you use external products, maybe you don't know if they are rigged or there are shenanigans in the code or whatever. So it's really,
Mm-hmm.
really complicated. That's why the game is asymmetrical, and that's why for 40 years we've been constantly failing at defending
Yeah.
ourselves.
And that, I see something on that previous slide talking about about the legacy systems, and considering how, like with Windows 7, how many people were still running it after it went end of life. Just,
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, it was a great OS. I mean,
oh yeah,
they
oh,
didn't.
it was. I don't blame them, but
That one was really efficient. That's why people stuck to it because they were like, "Oh no, they're gonna make us the next Windows 95 thing again." So they stuck to the 7. So, but yeah, I mean, legacy systems are a big problem because if you start to do something smart or with new protocols or stuff like that, it's just not going to work with old systems, right? And we talk about
hmm
Windows 7 here, which is more or less a modern OS. But think about AS 400 from IBM back from the 90s that are still in the basement of all the banks in the world.
yeah.
How do you defend them? They are dumb like hell. They are outdated. Like, I mean, I cannot even compare it to anything. They are totally outdated in terms of technology, but they are so reliable that people don't want to skip on them. So just to be back to the thing, we are the castle strategy. Is one of the worst memories in the 80s. Like, okay, there were those colorful pens. They were terrible. Okay,
God, they were awful. They were awful.
the music was somehow failed and the Walkman didn't make it any better. But the castle strategy, if you're nostalgic from it, you should go back to the 80s. I won't. But there is no way you defend thing in a central manner, right? There's no
hmm
perimeter anymore. There's no thing where you can build a castle around it and say, okay, I'm secure. I can go to sleep. I have my cuddle bear being a CTO and I have a nice night. No, not gonna happen anymore. IT set have to be defended individually, right? What they are, where they stand in their own juice. And the thing is, if you want to make it universal, and exactly for what you said, the reason is if you want to defend legacy system, for example, you have to use something that is sort of a universal. And the most universal language of them all is not Esperanto, mind you, is HTTP, right?
Poor
So,
Esperanto. No, no
poor Esperanto. I
respect.
mean, yeah, that was a great initiative, but it totally failed. Um, so HTTP is only universal language that everything speaks. A plane, your watch, your connected whale scale, or IS 400 in the basement of the bank. They all can speak, or even Windows 7. They all can speak HTTP, right?
hmm
So any universal solution should leverage an API, an HTTP based language, right?
hmm
So we think that the only way of coping with this problem that we, unfolded so far is the crowd. Crowd is the key to global reputation. Crowd is the key to trust. And funny enough, this crowd, has been revolutionizing pretty much everything. FOSS,
Yep.
for a start. I mean, that's the best example, and it's probably the oldest actually.
I think
Vacations
so.
with Airbnb, ways with driving, and so on and so forth. But what about security? It's crazy, right?
Mm.
I mean, I'm not talking bug bounties here, where there are hundreds of people trying to find a bug somewhere. It's 100 people. We are speaking million. Where is the product leveraging millions of people's strength?
Mm-hmm.
That's known in cybersecurity. That's what we're up to. And that's why we're open source. That's why we trust in FOSS, right? You see on the
Mm-hmm.
left-hand side of the slide, this weird C. It's actually the open source logo
Yeah,
just rotated, 90 degrees. And you know why I made this? Because it's a Pac-Man. It's gonna eat
it is.
everything, right?
It's
So
true.
open source is gonna eat everything. It's more than a philosophy. It's a business. Business acumen tells you that there's no friction when you give something for free.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the first friction of all is money. So if we make it for free, it's because we want an adoption as large as possible. And if we make it open source, it's because we want people to check inside that
Yes.
there's no backdoor, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want people to partake in this.
Yeah, so it has that crowdsource power of ways, but imagine all the ways people can make ways better if they could also develop the code.
Absolutely. Here it's possible. It's
Mm-hmm.
possible. And moreover, we have to be faithful to what we say. You know why? Because if we're not, the community can just fork it and make
Mm-hmm.
whatever it wants. So our oath of being truthful to the community stand in our license. It's mighty, for God's sake. Would you want to embed it into a nuclear missile being North Korea and ship it to Japan over the air? We couldn't prevent you from doing so because it's mighty. It's like it's the same license as Debian and a lot of other Linuxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's as free as it can be. So we want to build the ways of firewalls. You nailed it. It's exactly
Yes.
this what we want to do. And like in the case of Waze, we are using a local information. So Waze uses your heading, your position, and your speed, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
local position, local information about your vehicle, and it's deducing globally that there is a traffic jam on Los Angeles highways. I mean,
What
we
isn't
can
there a
guess,
traffic jam?
yeah, that.
Maybe
But
3 in the morning.
yeah, let's say guessed it where everyone knows it, but it's true for any country and any places. But what I mean is like with the local information, it deduced a global situation. It's exactly what
Exactly.
we're doing. So we're using a local behavior detection system. We're looking into your logs, seeing if people are doing crap with your systems. And globally, we are deducing that those IPs are interested into, I don't know, rigging, Magento, or WordPress, or Drupal, or VPN systems, or Exchange servers, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing, local from local to global. And it all starts with the behavior engine. Behavior engine is extremely powerful thing. Maybe you remember in the past something named fail to ban.
Yes. Yes.
We all used it, right? That was great. I mean, Cyril Jacquet did a great stuff, and the team behind it like maintained it for 16 years. That's
Oh my
crazy.
goodness.
And it's Python, for God's sake. So it's not really optimal for performances and stuff. It's not compatible with IPv6. It's not. But it did the job for years. So it's a behavior engine. It's exactly what we're doing. Revamped, modernized on steroids, but it's the same concept globally. So, what can a behavior engine do for you? Well, it can prevent like credential brute force, for example. If we speak about this SolarWind thing, I mean, the Russian guessed the password of the FTP server, right? But that's credential brute forcing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they didn't shoot it the right first time headshot, right? Maybe they made several tries before finding the proper password. So those things leave trails in the logs. PHP-based Armageddon, port scan, web scans, credential stuffing, credit card stuffing. When you try credit card number to validate them doing
Yeah.
microtransaction of like $0.1. All of this leave trails in the logs. Logs are not just crappy stuff that takes a lot of space on your hard drive. It's a gold mine that people are just not using properly.
Yeah.
So with those logs, we use grok patterns that are, the base of regex. It's regular expression, right? So you
Mhm.
can analyze logs very simply, and if you can do grok patterns, regex, then you can describe pretty much any log. And logs, everything spit logs nowadays.
Mhm.
Even plays are learning.
It's very true.
And then, based on that, you describe a scenario with a YAML file. It's really easy. You say, like, if someone is failing its password more than 5 times in a row within a time frame of, I don't know, 5 minutes, they
Mhm.
are doing credential brute force. So report it, right? And block it. That's what we're doing. So we're not filtering IPs and ports, right? We are filtering something like brute force or port scans or web crawlers, things like this, behavior really.
Yeah.
So,
That is
welcome
fantastic.
to the massively multiplayer fire.
Firewall. Woohoo!
Yeah, I mean, that's a global game, right? Except we're not equipped properly to win it. It's like if you were playing an FPS game and you would just have a keyboard and no mouse. You have absolutely no chances, right?
Yeah. And
So,
maybe a keyboard and like the keys kind of stick.
yeah, and mapped in Vorak,
Oh
right?
god.
Now you're sure to lose. So, um, we want to connect the data stream you have, whatever they are. I mean, they could be like CloudTrace or Azure or coming from your SIEM or Journal de Syslog, you name it. And it's not a problem. It's just acquisition. And then you apply the scenarios that we devised that you have maybe described yourself or that the community made for you. I mean, it's a mix of everything. You can go on our hub page, the
Mhm.
hub.crodsec.net, and you will probably find a scenario suiting your needs. And then we remedy the problems you're facing in the way you want and where you want. So, say you detected something on the database, illegal activity, right? And you decide to drop the connection on the reverse proxy or to send a captcha or to lower the rights, prevent like a slash admin access or the speed, or send a two-factor authentication like with your mobile or something like this. So you can remedy in the smartest way you want. And then this is a good part. If you found something, share it with us for God's sake, so that we can make
Mhm.
people aware of it. So obviously we do curation in between because people can try to tamper with the signalization, the signals that we receive. But
Yeah.
basically, you detect something, you share it, and this is a flying wheel. This is where the wasting is starting. So this is NeckGen, right? So it's stateless and decoupled. It's high performances. It provides observability out of the box with uh, it's instrumented so they can see what happens with a local website. It's using Metabase, sorry. Then it's easy to deploy, with things like, um, oh, sorry, I'm being tired too, huh? It seems.
It's okay. It's a little bit later for you there, so
Yeah, yeah,
that's all
yeah.
right.
Sorry. If Puppet, things like this, all the automation things, Terraform, and so on. It provides easy
Nice.
modern grammar, and it's multi-OS. So we firmly intend, it's not done yet, but we are working on it, to port it to Windows environments, to macOS environments. It's already done
Excellent.
for Linux, for BSDs, and it provides multi-state detection. This is really cool. This one is cool. Like, if this and this and this or that, then that. Say, if
Excellent.
someone is scanning my website and is port scanning me and is doing FTP brute force or SSH brute force, then it's a targeted attack. It's not something random. It's not someone, it's not the
Mhm.
background noise. It's someone that is really after us. So ring the bell and raise the CEO or the CTO or the CISO, you have to wake them up.
Yeah.
So it's all about peeling the onion. Now that we've done like behavior thing, let's do the reputation one because this is where the real strength is. So to hackers, IPs mean anonymity, right? They
Mhm.
get anonymous as long as they don't show their real IPs, their real face. They don't want to be doxxed. They don't want to be known as living in Russia, China, wherever, their address, the IP address being visible, the name being at large, and so on.
Yeah.
So we'll peel the onion because we are burning those IPs one by one. Every time they are used, we are burning them in the community and for our customers, meaning nobody can reuse it against you anymore,
Mm-hmm.
neither against anyone in the community. So we're peeling the onion, but trust me, we won't be the one crying.
It's excellent point. Excellent point.
So a reputation engine is really cool because then everyone's sightings is shared. It's curated, obviously, but it's shared. So
Mm-hmm.
meaning you can do stuff and protect, say, IoT, for example. So this API first approach makes sense because IoT
It
they have nearly
does
no.
because it's so vulnerable. I mean, how many people has that just been such a good avenue for people to hack?
Absolutely, cameras or ESP 90,
Oh, like
82A60.
oh, yeah, like cameras and like hacking into people's like even like the really disturbing things like their baby
Yeah, it's creepy, right?
monitors.
So you
Oh
don't want
God,
that
it's
to happen.
awful.
And then they use these to leverage these networks to make like a huge magnitude DDoS. That's terrible. So,
Mm-hmm.
but those IoT devices, those cameras, those home automation stuff, and all. One common point is that they have to be produced at the lowest possible cost, meaning they just have barely enough CPU and RAM to run what they are made for, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, evaluating your weight or giving you time or filming your baby or whatever it is that you have an IoT for. So, but all of those objects, all of them, one by one, they have one common point. They can make an HTTP query,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So they can use actually the reputation engine and leverage it to know whether they should accept a new connection or not from an unknown IP. And that's cool because then you get to defend all those undefendable IoT devices, for example.
Yeah.
Or say another example that is cool, like say you have a web shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to be hacked by someone trying to do credit card stuffing, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want either to lose any potential customer.
Yeah.
How you do that?
Hmm.
So it's risky to block people, right? So what you can say is, for example, if they are in the payment tunnel, right,
Mm-hmm.
and those IPs have been seen before as doing credit card stuffing, and the basket price is way lower than it's
Mm-hmm.
normally, then it's a credit card stuffing. Block it for
Yeah.
God's sake and ban the IP. This
That
is
is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the possibilities are endless. And actually, I don't think we have uncovered not even one third of them.
Mm-hmm.
But think about a global reputation engine, a global reputation database for any IP in the world at a world scale, with millions of people partaking into it in real time. So anytime a hacker is using a new IP, it's burnt
Mm-hmm.
real time. That's
Yep.
crazy, right?
That's fantastic. I mean, to cut it down from hours or days into just
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
So it's about like it's a sort of CTI if you think about it, cyber threat intel, right? So
Mm-hmm.
who's dangerous to whom for what reason and what are they trying to leverage? Except we're not CTI. We are better than CTI. A CTI, what is it doing basically? It's running simulated services, honeypots,
Mm-hmm.
over a few hundreds of servers on a couple of clouds, right? That's
Yeah.
basically how it works. And to my knowledge, the biggest one are around like 100, 200, 300 servers worldwide. What we're harnessing the people of real servers running real services across all type environments of connection. So meaning for you as a hacker, you cannot pinpoint us. You cannot know
Mm-hmm.
that if it's true or false because they are real services. So if you try to interact, I don't know, with a if we take the same example, if you try to interact with a PSP, a payment gateway, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you are using an honeypot, it's unlikely to reply properly. If you're
Yeah.
using a real service, it will. Meaning you cannot distinguish what's real from false because everything is real. You cannot neither pinpoint us using like IP ranges or like this is Akamai or this is AWS. I'm not going to throw an attack at them because, they might pinpoint me. No,
Mm-hmm.
we are everywhere across IPv4 and IPv6 space. We have people like in Togo, in university, small business in Thailand, sweatshops in Finland. We have people using 4G or fiber connection in Iceland. We are everywhere and nowhere. We are no one. You cannot pinpoint us. It's impossible. So you will fall into the trap.
Yeah, it's great. It's turning that power of anonymity and using it for your advantage now.
Absolutely. And what we think is, you know what? If you stack all DevOps, all SecOps, and all sysadmins in the world, we are outnumbering the hacker by a times 1,000 factor.
Mm-hmm.
We are way more numerous. So if we band together, if we team together, we bring a whole new challenge for the hacker. So
Mm-hmm.
that being said, I'm pretty sure the hacker, and trust me, they already do, will start to react and try to punish us or make us ridiculous or hack us or whatever.
Yeah.
So the best way of discarding our system or disregarding our system is like if you can make it do false positive by poisoning it, saying Monica's IP is very dangerous, whether it's not, it's just because they want to block you or discredit us. So how do we deal with this? And yes, hackers all around the world, the algorithm is somehow public. I'm explaining it to you. Beat that. So we have trust rank system, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you are going to go into our system, you get a trust rank. And at first, we don't trust you at all. You get a trust rank 2, 3, 4, whatever. And then maybe one day you work your way to the top and you get trust rank 1 and you become a network validator for us, right?
Okay.
Because you've been there for so long, making accurate decision every time for 6 months already, we know we can trust you. And say if you're a bad hacker and you want to start 10,000 machines and tomorrow try to um, rule out the consensus by sending false informations, what will happen is likely that only your machines that are behaving like a cohort will start spamming the same signal.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very suspicious, even though you're here for 6 months. So your hardly acquired trust rank will vanish all of a sudden.
Oh,
And
excellent.
for 6 months, in the meantime, you will have reinforced us. Thank you for the time and money. So there are other trust rank, right? So if a trust rank 2 sees something and a trust rank 1 sees the same thing, then the trust rank 2 will be credited with a bit of reputation. We trust him a bit more. And the trust
Mm-hmm.
rank 1 will validate the signal. And if there's no trust rank 1 to do this, maybe our own honeypot, that is trust rank 0, will validate the signal. It's here to bootstrap the network, among other tasks. For example, it also serves us when we have like too few visibility on some specific stack. Say we don't have enough
Mm-hmm.
PrestaShop, for example, right now, and we want to have high sensitivity on PrestaShop because we know there are hacking activities taking place. Maybe we start, I don't know, 100 PrestaShop just to check to have a better visibility over what's happening. So it bootstraps the network to validate the first validators, and it helps us getting a higher sensitivity to some attacks.
Okay.
Next is the Canary List. Remember the canaries
Mm-hmm.
in the mine,
In
in
the
the coal
coal mine.
mines,
Poor things.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, poor thing. They died by the hundreds, but they prevented life losses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when the miners would be digging into a pouch of gas, the gas leak
Uh-huh.
would be totally impossible to smell for them because it's methane; it
Yeah.
has no smell, right? And it would not kill them right away because there's still enough oxygen. But the single spark and everything blows, right?
Yeah.
But the canary would die. They found out the canary would die if anything happened with the gas, and they would rush to the surface before any spark happened.
Mm-hmm.
So our canary list is a bit different, though. It's kind of a white list, if you want. So there are IPs there that you're not supposed to ban anytime, right?
Mm-hmm.
Say Microsoft updates, Akamai, Googlebot, Google Mail, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Because it would wreck a VOC. It's probably not legitimate to block them anyway. And it's probably that because you do this because you're of bad faith, right? You're trying to rig the system. So it's a safety device. And we have a predictive algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying AI because it triggered some investors. They were
Yeah.
like, right. So you're doing cybersecurity. You have a SaaS low touch monetization model. You're using the crowd. You're after a network effect, and now you're putting AI. Well, this is a bingo bullshit, man. I'm out. What?
Buzzword bingo.
Seriously? I mean, we're in 2021 for God's sake. AI is a 20, if not 30-year-old technology. We are
Hmm.
just a customer of it. We are not saying, we're doing the next TensorFlow. We're just using it to see what we call low noise signals. Say IP A, B, C, and D are working together, right? They're bending
Hmm.
together. They're working as a cohort. And each of them individually doesn't have an extremely aggressive behavior, but they are sneakily bending together to achieve their goal, right? Then we
Mm.
can see this pattern unfolding in our honeypot system. That's why also it's here. And that we can tell, okay, IP A, B, C, and D work together, right? So then A came to your premises, then B is probably coming next. Block it,
Hmm.
as well as C
Yeah.
and D. So this is predictive algorithm somehow. It's like a minority report thing. You block it before they even come.
Yep.
And once it's done, all this curation process, then the IP is in the IP reputation DB and it's distributed all across our community, right?
Excellent.
Sorry. You have to know that
Ooh.
an IP being bad or rogue is not a permanent thing. It was a clean IP once, it's been compromised, and it will be cleaned again one day by its legitimate owner.
Hmm.
And the previous problem with reputation system is that they kept an outdated image of whatever was happening. So DNS RBL or web based about blacklist and stuff like that, they were having, sometimes 3 months or several months old IPs in there. That doesn't make
Oof.
sense. Our network is so sensitive already that if an IP is not doing any more crap after 72 hours, we just remove it by ourselves. It's not a problem. We clear it
Yeah. And
because we
that's
think like, sorry, go on, go on.
okay. That for the person whose IP was affected, then instead of having to wait, those months, then once
Yeah,
you know that it's clean, then they can go back to doing what they need to do.
absolutely. It's automatically cleared out. And it's not a problem because if the same IP comes back after 73 hours, we already know that it's been seen before. So we
Hmm.
instate it directly into the consensus without going through the whole curation process. So that's how we are so reactive in this, right? And larger the network is becoming, the lower this threshold is going to be. So maybe
Excellent.
when we are like 200,000, the threshold
Hmm.
would be probably one day only.
Excellent.
So as we all know, IPv4, it's not true for IPv6, but IPv4, which is still the majorities of IPs out there,
Hmm.
um, there are sometimes NAT IPs, right? There are several people behind using one IP, or sometimes there are carrier grid NAT, or sometimes they are variable, whatever. So how do we deal with that? We strongly suggest to our users to use the minimum necessary remediation. Say, for example, you're using a Magento website. Let's take this example back, right?
Okay.
And you have a dot. Instead of just dropping the connection, send a captcha, even an invisible one, like a reCAPTCHA thing, because you probably solved the problem already. It's okay. You dealt with the threat. So if this IP is in the end a NAT IP, and there are 35,000 people using the same IP that you wouldn't know about, but you're not blocking them. You're just slowing down a hacker, or even blocking a hacker if it's automated attack, but you still let the legitimate users going through. We
Mm.
have this 3-day probing mechanism I just showed you, which is a
Hmm.
72-hour probing period. You can deban yourself. Yeah,
Oh,
truly.
excellent.
Yeah, go to our website, fill in a form with a captcha, and you're deban. And you will tell me, oh, wow, that's too easy. And if I'm a hacker, I will deban my IP constantly. Yes, but no. First of all, you cannot automate that because there's a
Hmm.
captcha behind. Second, if your IP is caught again, you get an exponential penalty for it. So the first time,
Oof.
you'll be cleared out in an hour. Second time, in a day. Third time, in a week. Fourth time, in a month. So,
Yep.
you can demand, no problem. But you'd better clean up the stuff before. Um, the consensus that I showed you before is also involving a range qualification, meaning we know what range is doing what range is a carrier grid net, what range is a variable IP range for an ISP or something like this. So we don't treat them all the same way, right? We want to be sure of what we're doing. Because some IPs, for example, like AWS spot instances, they are changing hands sometimes in a matter of 15 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, you cannot apply the same remediation you do for IPs that are constantly given to the same person
Yeah,
or
so
company.
it's basically in like instead of using something like an axe, you're using a scalpel.
Absolutely. Yep. We like to do that. We like to do this in an extremely precise fashion so that no one gets penalized for this. Even the person that has been hacked, by the way, for what it was. Say Granny clicked on the wrong website
Oh
and
yeah.
her browser is infected by something. Now, that never happens, but in a sci-fi world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Granny has an issue with her brother, but is she really dangerous for your Magento website if her brother is like, I don't know, doing crypto mining stuff for a hacker? No. So we make tailor-made list for you. Say if a hacker is doing SSH brute forcing, is probably not using the same IPs for doing terminal service or Samba brute force. Or if he does, by the way, we will include them in the same list. But we make a list that is relevant for you. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
using, I don't know, Apache MySQL stack, we
Yep.
send you stuff that is concerning your Apache MySQL stack, not stuff that are concerning Microsoft environments or VPNs or stuff like that. Doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
That way we reduce the false positive surface to the minimum possible.
That is a really excellent approach there.
Thank you. And you know what the best? The best part is we never export your logs, right? You heard
Nice.
right. We are not getting your data out of your system. The only thing we're taking, and you are sending it, and if you don't want to send it, you can totally deactivate this feature. It's really not a
Mm-hmm.
problem to us. You send a timestamp, the offending IP, and the behavior it had. That's all. That's all we need to do the magic. The rest is to export anything. That's how we got GDPR compliant. Doesn't make sense for you in US,
Excellent.
but this is a privacy framework that is really, really strong in Europe.
Yeah.
And I guess even in US, people start to be worried about their privacy as well. So we
Yes,
are
we
privacy.
yeah, we might not have the legal requirements. I know in some states like in California that they have more stringent privacy laws. But I think especially for people in the open source community, it's good to know that this is very privacy minded.
Absolutely. So, and we only monetize nothing toward the community. Say,
Hmm.
if you are a community member and you share the signals with us, you get the reputation database for free as well. So, meaning you're protected
Excellent.
that both by the behavior engine and by the reputation engine. If you don't share the signals with us, then we consider that you can either pay to access the reputation database
Hmm.
or that you can just use the behavior engine for free. It's fine, there's no problem.
Hmm.
But we're not going to send you the reputation for free as well. You're not, making us bigger and stronger. Then you're not partaking into the effort. So we're not rewarding you with a free access to this database. But if you're sharing with us, all of this, all including reputation and curation and stuff, is for free. The monetization model is about people that mainly big corps, right?
Of
That maybe
course.
cannot share anything for legal reasons or don't want to, or for people that don't want to share at all. It's no problem. They can still
Hmm.
leverage the thing. And this is stuff like fleet features, self-monitoring, forensic, pro expensive features that we need to develop or we need to create constantly so that it requires, computation power or brain power to make it a reality.
Yeah.
So we have one problem, big hacking
Ah.
worldwide, and two solutions.
Angry llamas of the law. I love it.
Very angry llamas, yeah. Very serious one. Badass llamas. Actually,
Badass
to be
llamas.
true, they are alpacas because llamas are not safe to handle.
Yeah. Alpacas are, oh no, they're adorable. Also have very excellent yarn from them. Just saying. But
Sorry for my voice. My kiddo gave me some school disease that's very cool. It's there for 15 days already, but it's not COVID at least.
oh good. That's good.
So, do you have any question for me?
No, this is a fantastic thing, and honestly, I think I am probably going to put this on my computer at some point soon. Like I was telling you before, my husband does cyber security for his day job. So, but this is really exciting to see ways that the community can directly get involved. And so, speaking of, I know that you've got your website there, and that's perfect. So, besides just being able to run this and share that information and kind of build the build the the information database and help the reputation um, engine. What are other ways that people can get involved?
Well, specifically for your audience, that is FOSS, right? So
Mm-hmm.
most of them,
Yes.
or some of them, are developers,
Mm-hmm.
and we definitely love developers. We made it the most straightforward for them to integrate new technologies, new data source, new scenarios, new bouncers. So we're here to help. We're here to develop the core, but we'd be delighted if people can join and partake into the development effort with us, and create new scenarios that are matching some specific problem they had, or parsers that would allow to integrate, I don't know, F5 or F5, sorry, or Cisco, or whatever
Mm-hmm.
VPN brand that we don't know about already, or Phantom or Demisto logs or whatever. I mean, everything they do we won't have to do, and we can focus more on delivering an extremely powerful, versatile, and fast core engine. So we definitely would love to hear about this fast community on our GitHub system, on our
Mm-hmm.
Gitter, on our discourse. Please come, join, take a, take part into the discussion with us, and we'll be delighted to help you deploy, create, code whatever you want around the product. Really.
Excellent. Well, I hope we get some people who hear this and are heading to your site to take part. So, thank you. I just want to thank you so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to say before we finished?
Yes, thank you already. That's been a delighting week with IMakeFOSS we had. And I want to tell you all, guys that and girls, that actually we are raising an army, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
battle out there, and you can be part of it. It's really as simple as using it to defend yourself, or partaking into creating the weapon we are creating all together. So there is a solution. It's out there. We are here to last. We have a fundraiser going on, so don't worry about that. We are heavily financed. So please join us and make this a reality.
Excellent. Well, fi- well, Philippe, thank you so much. Sorry, I had an issue with my mic there. It has been a pleasure. I have learned so much, and I think the people watching this, who this is their first introduction, you have done a brilliant job. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, and see you very soon.
All right,
Bye
thank
bye,
you.
Philippe. Bye bye, Foss. Bye bye, I love
Bye.
Foss.